Okay, so we're going to start out with chapter 6 with the child people. Super quick, we had about a page left of Kamala. The only thing that you missed at the very end of Kamala is that she wants to connect Siddhartha with her friend whose name is Kamaswami. He's a wealthy merchant. She's hoping that Kamaswami can teach Siddhartha how to be a merchant so Siddhartha can earn some money and then kind of rise up to her standards a little bit more. So that's all you missed at the very end of chapter 5. So you'll want to make sure just to note that Kamaswami is a wealthy merchant who Siddhartha is now going to work with, and that's the premise of the next chapter. So if you want to add any last ideas to chapter 5, we read most of it together, and we added a quote, I believe, so just make sure that you get that last piece of information. So chapter 6 with the child people starts with Kamaswami and Siddhartha sort of starting to work together to be a merchant. So the key character that you'll want to add is Kamaswami. You can look in the glossary and make sure that you look that up. And otherwise, there shouldn't be much key terminology that you'll need for this section. So here are some questions. You can pause the screencast and read those 3 kind of plot-based questions that you should be able to answer. And as I'm reading, you'll be on the lookout for those. The element from the Eightfold Path is right intention or resolve. So avoiding thoughts or attachment, hatred and harmful intent. So making sure that you have the right thoughts, the right intent, and kind of thoughts as you approach the world and your path. So think about how Siddhartha is learning that through this chapter. Okay, kind of like yesterday, I'm going to skip around just a little bit to avoid some of the more redundant parts and make sure you just get the basics from the chapter. So here we go. I'm on page 34, called With the Child People. Siddhartha went to the merchant, Kamaswami. He was shown into a wealthy home. Servants led him past expensive tapestries into a room where he was to wait for the master of the house. In came Kamaswami, a lively, limber man with heavily graying hair, with very clever, prudent eyes, with lips that betokened desire. Host and guest greeted each other in friendly fashion. I have been told, the merchant began, that you are a Brahmin, a learned man, but that you are seeking service with the merchant. Is it because you have fallen on hard times, Brahmin, that you are seeking service? No, said Siddhartha, I have not fallen on hard times, and I have never known hard times. Let me inform you that I have come from among the Samanas, with whom I have lived for a long period. If you are coming from the Samanas, how can you not be in need? Are not the Samanas completely without possession? Samanas, how can you not be in need? Are the Samanas completely without possession? I am without possessions, Siddhartha said, if that is what you mean. Certainly I am without possessions, but I am so voluntarily, and so I am not in need. But what do you expect to live on if you have no possessions? I have never yet thought about it, sir. I have never been without possessions for over 3 years, and I have never thought about it, what I would live on. So you lived on the possessions of other people? Presumably so. Surely a merchant too lives on other people's wealth. Well said, but he does not take people's money from them for nothing. He gives them his merchandise for it. Apparently, that is actually the case. Everyone takes, everyone gives, such is life. But permit me, if you have no possessions, what do you expect to give? Everyone gives what he has. The warrior gives his strength, the merchant gives his wares, the teacher his teachings, the farmer his rice, the fisherman his fish. Very good. And now, what is it that you have to give? What is it that you have learned that you are able to do? I can think, I can wait, I can fast. And that is all? I believe that is all. And what good is that? For example, fasting, what is it good for? It is very good, sir. If a person has nothing to eat, then to fast is the cleverest thing he can do. For example, if Siddhartha has not learned how to fast, this very day he would have to accept any position whatsoever, either with you or anywhere else, because hunger would compel him to. But this way, Siddhartha can wait calmly. He knows no impatience. He knows no distress. He can let himself be besieged by hunger for a long time and can laugh at the situation. That, sir, is what fasting is good for. You are right, Samana. Wait a moment. Kamaswami went out and returned with the scroll, which he handed to his guest, asking, Can you read this? Siddhartha looked at the scroll, on which a sales contract was written, and began to read its contents aloud. Excellent, said Kamaswami, and do you mind writing something for me on the sheet? He gave him a sheet and a stylus. Siddhartha wrote and gave back the sheet. Kamaswami read, Writing is good, thinking is better. Cleverness is good, patience is better. You know how to write extremely well, the merchant said approvingly. We will have much more to say to each other, for today I ask you to be my guest and take up residence in this house. Siddhartha thanked him and accepted the position, and thereafter lived in the merchant's house. He was brought clothes and shoes, and every day a servant prepared his bath. Twice a day a copious meal was served, but Siddhartha ate only once a day. Moreover, he ate no meat and he drank no wine. Kamaswami told him about his business, showed him merchandise and storehouses, showed him his ledgers. Siddhartha became acquainted with many new things, listening carefully but saying little. And mindful of what Kamala had said, he never subordinated himself to the merchant, but compelled him to treat him as an equal, indeed as more than an equal. Kamaswami ran his business conscientiously and often passionately, but Siddhartha regarded it all as a game, the rules of which he strove to learn accurately, but the substance of which did not touch his heart. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause for a moment. I think you'll be able to answer at least one of the plot questions, and anything else you think that he's learning on his way to enlightenment. Go ahead and hit play when you're ready. So we're actually going to skip the rest of page 36 and move over to the top of page 37. We're going to begin with that paragraph that begins, Kamaswami followed the advice. What they're referring to there is Kamaswami says to his merchant that he's frustrated because he cannot get Siddhartha to take anything seriously, and the merchant's friend says that he should, as you can see in the paragraph right before, give him a third of the profits from the deals he makes, but let him also lose the same percentage when the business suffers a loss. So essentially, let him see that he can make money but also lose money, and his friend believes that then Siddhartha will become more motivated by sales. So this is where we're picking up. Kamaswami followed the advice, but Siddhartha was not much concerned about it. If he made a profit, he accepted it with indifference. If he suffered a loss, he laughed, saying, "Just look, this turned out badly." It really seemed as if business did not matter to him. On one occasion, he traveled to a village to purchase a sizable rice crop there. When he arrived, however, the rice had already been sold to another dealer. Nevertheless, Siddhartha remained in that village for many days. He treated the farmers to meals, he gave their children copper coins, he had a guest at a wedding and returned from his trip highly satisfied. Kamaswami reproached him for not having come back at once, for wasting time and money. Siddhartha replied, "Stop scolding, my dear friend. Nothing has ever yet been achieved by scolding. If there has been a loss, then let me bear the loss. I am satisfied with this trip. I met all sorts of people. I made friends with a Brahmin. I dandled children on my knee. Farmers showed me their fields. No one took me for a businessman." "That is all very fine," Kamaswami cried indignantly, "but in reality you are a businessman, I should think. Or were you just taking a pleasure trip?" "Of course," Siddhartha laughed. "Of course I was taking a pleasure trip. Why else should I travel? I got to know people and places. I enjoyed friendliness and trust. I found friendship. Look, dear friend, if I had been Kamaswami, as soon as I saw that my deal was nullified, I would have come back home in haste, filled with vexation, and my time and money would really have been lost. But this way, I had a good time. I learned things, I tasted joy, and I harmed neither myself nor others through vexation or through hastiness. And if I ever go back there again, perhaps to buy a future crop or for any other reason, friendly people will receive me in friendly and cheerful ways, and I shall applaud myself for not having exhibited haste or displeasure on the former occasion. So let it go, my friend, and do not yourself harm by scolding. When the day comes on which you see the Siddhartha is doing me damage, then just say the word and Siddhartha will go his way. But till then, let us be satisfied with each other." Just as futile were the merchant's attempts to convince Siddhartha that he was eating his, Kamaswami's bread, Siddhartha was eating his own bread, or rather both of them were eating other people's bread, everybody's bread. Siddhartha never lent an ear to Kamaswami's worries, and Kamaswami worried a lot. If a business deal in progress threatened to be successful, if a shipment seemed to be lost, if a debtor seemed unable to pay, Kamaswami was never able to convince his associate that it was a useful thing to utter words of concern or anger, to knit one's brows, or to lose sleep. When Kamaswami on one occasion, rebuking him, saying he had learned everything he knew from him, he replied, "Please do not pull my leg with that sort of joke. I have learned from you how much a basket of fish costs and how much interest can be demanded for a loan of money. This is your corpus of knowledge, but I did not learn how to think from you, my dear Kamaswami. It would be better if you tried to learn that from me." So we're going to pause there, and I want you to think through question number 2 and think about how Siddhartha takes Kamaswami's lessons and what we're starting to learn about his character a bit. And you might even jot down some ideas about the Eightfold Path, maybe pull a quote from here about what Siddhartha is learning about what really matters in life, especially as he's supposed to be learning to be a merchant. Okay, go ahead and play when you're ready. So we're going to go to the top of 39 and hear that even amongst all of this dealings and these kind of years of living and learning how to be a merchant, Siddhartha still has flickerings of his old life. So we're going to go to the top of 39 and we're going to read the paragraph, "At times he heard." At times he heard deep in his heart a very faint, still voice that quietly admonished him, quietly lamented so it could barely be perceived. At such times he became aware of an hour or so that he was leading a strange life, that he was doing nothing but playing a mere game, that although he might be serene and might sometimes feel joy, true life was nevertheless passing him by without touching him. The way a ball player plays with the ball, so did he play with business, with the people around him, watching them, finding amusement in them. His heart, the wellspring of his being, was not in it. The wellspring flowed elsewhere, as if far from him. It flowed on invisibly, and had nothing more to do with his life. And a few times he was alarmed at those thoughts, and wished that it might be vouchsafed in him as well, to take part in the childlike activity of each day passionately and wholeheartedly, really to live, really to act, really to enjoy and to live, instead of merely standing by in that way like a spectator. Okay, so if we're going to just read that one additional paragraph there and think about kind of the experience that Siddhartha is having, anything else you want to add to his realization as he's trying to participate in this life amongst people. The last couple of paragraphs you could skim through on your own if you want. Basically, they're continuing to develop their physical relationship, and they're kind of starting to connect more as people. Kamala's realizing that Siddhartha is kind of different than many of the others, that he's more adrift. So if you want to add that, you can skim to the end, but that's the end of what we'll read together for this chapter. Be sure you have some key moments written down and a key quotation about what he learned during his time learning from Kamaswami.